Her scream shattered the sterile hum of the office. Maya Jackson, a brilliant data analyst, stood her ground as security guards stormed through the glass doors, their hands already reaching for her. It was a Monday morning, and the air in Apex Analytics crackled with betrayal. The whispers had turned to accusations, and now, in front of her colleagues, she was being branded a thief. A black woman in a sea of press suits, she felt every eye dissect her, not for who she was, but for what they assumed she could never be. The trouble began weeks earlier, when a critical financial report vanished from the company's secure server. Maya, the only black woman in her department, had been the last to access it. That fact alone was enough for her boss, Richard Caldwell, to point the finger. Never mind her flawless track record or the late nights she'd spent perfecting every dataset. To him, she was an outsider, her presence a glitch in his pristine corporate machine. The office rumor mill churned. She must have sold it, they whispered. Who else could it be? By Friday, the whispers became a formal accusation, and now, as the guards seized her arms, the weight of their prejudice crushed her. Maya's heels scraped the polished floor as they dragged her toward the elevator. Her voice, steady despite the chaos, cut through the murmurs. You're wrong. All of you. I'll prove it. Her colleagues averted their eyes, their silence louder than any shout. Only Sarah, the quiet intern who'd always admired Maya's grit, dared to meet her gaze, her face pale with guilt. The elevator doors closed, and Maya was gone, her career in ruins, her dignity battered but unbroken. In the weeks that followed, Maya didn't crumble. She burned, alone in her small apartment. She pored over encrypted backups of the company's server she'd kept for her own protection. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing digital footprints the culprits thought they'd erased. She uncovered emails, hidden transactions, and a trail leading straight to Richard and his inner circle. They hadn't just framed her, they'd sold the report to a competitor for a six-figure payout, banking on her being the perfect scapegoat. A black woman, they figured, wouldn't fight back. They were wrong. Maya's nights blurred into days, her resolve fueled by every slight she'd endured. The microaggressions, the promotion she was passed over for, the assumption that she was diversity hire rather than a genius in her field. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for every person who'd been judged by their skin instead of their worth. She contacted a lawyer, a tenacious woman named Carla, who specialized in corporate fraud. Together, they built a case so airtight it could choke the lies out of Apex's boardroom. 6 weeks later, Maya walked back into Apex Analytics, not as an employee, but as a reckoning. Flanked by federal agents, her chin high, she carried a warrant in one hand and truth in the other. The office froze. Richard's smug grin faltered as agents cuffed him, his protests drowning in the click of metal. His accomplices, two senior analysts who'd laughed as Maya was dragged out, were next. One tried to bolt, but the agents were faster. The same colleagues who'd shunned her now stared, some in shame, others in awe. Sarah, the intern, stood at her desk, tears streaming, whispering, "I'm sorry." The aftermath was swift. The media descended, headlines screaming of corruption and justice. Apex's stock plummeted, but Maya didn't care about their empire. She cared about the truth. In court, her evidence was undeniable. Logs, emails, bank records. Richard and his cronies were convicted, facing years behind bars. Maya's name was cleared, but she didn't return to Apex. She started her own firm, hiring those overlooked by the corporate world people like her, who'd been judged before they could speak. Maya's story rippled beyond the courtroom. It sparked conversations in boardrooms and break rooms, forcing companies to confront their biases. She became a symbol, not just of justice, but of resilience. At her new office, a small wooden plaque sat on her desk, engraved with the words she'd spoken that fateful day, "I'll prove it." And she had not just her innocence, but the power of standing tall against a world that tried to drag her down. The scars remained, though. Every glance from a stranger, every whispered assumption, reminded her of the fight. But Maya carried them like badges, proof of her survival. She turned pain into purpose, prejudice into progress. And as she looked out at her team, diverse, brilliant, and fiercely loyal, she knew the real victory wasn't just putting the guilty in jail. It was building a future where no one else would be dragged from their place, their voice, their truth. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.